Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Africa is Home Global Podcast, where we cover everything that affects our beloved continent, directly or indirectly, ranging from politics to the judiciary system to education and foreign policies that may impact our continent. Joining us today is Muna, our special guest from Nashville. Our point of focus today is going to be preventing, let me rephrase that, completely eradicating the marginalization of communities in Somalia. There is no room for violence and marginalization in Africa. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And I'm looking forward to this conversation with you, Muna and Platini.
And Mr. Claude, my co-presenter for today is Mr. Claude Gadebouke, who also happens to be the co-author of the book Survival Uncensored, currently marketing on Amazon. Sorry, sir. Sorry that I almost
It's okay. That's okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Muna, for joining us.
Yes, it's an honor to be here today. Thank you guys for having me. I'm so honored and grateful to be here today.
All right.
With African is Home podcast.
Right.
Africa is Home podcast.
Yeah.
So honored.
My first question to you will be to tell us, talk a little bit about Somalia Alliance for Justice and Equality movement.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So for the Somali Alliance for Justice and Equality movement is a grassroots social and political organization that was founded by marginalized young intellectuals that actually, drifts from different interdisciplinary backgrounds, and we are all based here in the United States. The organization has been in existence for 3 years now. Our mission is to unite, advocate, and empower marginalized Somali communities through nonviolent social movement and fight against social, political, and economic injustice and inequalities in Somalia. Our vision is to see a prosperous society free from suffering, structure, prejudice, and systemic discrimination against marginalized Somali communities on both at the interpersonal and political level. And usually the way we are trying to approach these problems is to educate and engage our marginalized communities at the diaspora, national, and international level. Just so that, we are initiating and kind of mobilizing and empowering them to take actions on this, decades of human rights violation that has been caused among these particular populations in Somalia. And so that is the way we try to approach the problem. As you can see, we are not a very old organization, but a developing grassroots organization, and we are trying to learn from the best, like Gandhi, the Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement. So we try to apply different type of nonviolent movement actions into our organization as we represent intellectual marginalized professionals.
That's really great that you guys have such an amazing organization that is out here fighting for us. Thank you guys so much. Claude, it's like you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important. The fact that it's a young organization or in a new organization is also, it's important because it takes a lot of work to get an organization off the ground. So there's something that moved you to create, to start the organization, right? So what actually moved you? I understand, like in general, the you're talking about marginalization and discrimination and systemic discrimination and things like that. But was there like a trigger, or did you just see all of these problems and over time decided, okay, we want to,
as I'm talking to you right now, and when Claude invited me to join the Africa is Home podcast, I was kind of, shocked because working in the political or social advocacy space was never something that I did as a professional. My background is public health. So pardon me if I kind of miscommunicate some of the political languages as I'm learning.
No, you're doing well. You're doing amazing. Good.
So as I stand in front of you today, I actually do represent the marginalized community that I'm advocating for. Is because I am a marginalized person, and that is the reason why I wanted to be involved, although I knew this was not the area of expertise in my personal and professional level. However, I knew that somebody had to do something, and I wanted to join this dedicated group of young professionals from my community. So, there's a history behind this advocacy work that we initiated recently. The struggle of marginalized rights in Somalia takes place in the context where where the abuses of human rights in general has persisted for many decades now, from the widespread torture and political oppression of the Siad Barre era that collapsed in 1991, which most people know about. And it continued up until today, the central government also doing the civil war, and mainly because these people look like a true African. They are the indigenous. Just because of their appearance, they don't have the soft hair or the long nose, that they are being accused as slaves, and they are even called Jarer simply because of their appearance. But in reality, they are not just a group of people that is categorized as Somali Bantu or Jarer, but they are, majority of the population. They make up about 50% of the Somali population, and they also have over 80 different types of tribes, even within this, indigenous minority and ethnic minorities or marginalized communities. So, however, they want to be identified as, slave trade people that were just thrown into Somalia and they were asked to form and blah, blah. But these were the people that actually fought even during the Italy colonization in Somalia. They were in the forefront fighting to defend their country. That's how much they were, dedicated to the citizen of the country. So during this time also, as you can imagine, these were people that always focused on forming and also just dealing with more of like the mechanical, society. So due to this, the people that are currently dominating Somalia are called the Kishotic people, and these are the people with the soft hair, long nose, also sometimes claim that they originally came from Arab. So within this population, they were kind of too busy fighting for power, political sharing, while the Somali Bantus were away from that type of meetings or political planning, the constitutional building. They were just kind of focusing on defending the Italians, colonizers, and also focusing on their forming. So they never really fight against power. They just thought they were all equal. They're all Somalis, and there's more important work to do than fighting against each other. However, because they were absent from this power sharing, absent from all the development of the country's political structure, they never went to school. They were always excluded. They never had jobs in the political offices and things like that. They were always excluded because, of course, and they also have the highest level of illiterate rate in the country because they never went to school, and such people cannot participate in such institutions where the decisions are being made for the citizens in the country. So due to this, the dominating majority clans decided to build a very structured political system that is based around clans. And due to this is what led to today's 4.5 political system framework, which now the Somali Bantus and other marginalized groups are represented as half. That 0.5 basically means half. But in reality, because due to also lack of information, lack of history records among the marginalized population, they can't really claim this space as majorities. They are being identified as minorities. In reality, they are really not minorities. They make up half of Somali's population. So this has been existed for a long time, which then again led to Somali Bantus seeking a safe space in Kenya, becoming refugees. And then later on, the human rights violation was recognized by the United Nations and the US government and also the international community. And so Somali Bantus were granted to come to America as refugees. This back in 1991. Yeah, so when they first arrived in Kenya, they went through the refugee status processing. Some were declined, some were approved. So around 13,000 Somali Bantu refugees were able to come to America. So there's a lot of this issues has been going on, for decades and decades and decades. And even for somebody like me who was born in the refugee camp, all I have known about my country is just war and conflict and human rights violations. Like, I have never known the bright side of my country. I have always known just the dark side of my country. And this being in this movement, part of this movement, really is very dear to my heart. And I feel like, this is the new dawn. We are the future now. Many years ago, my uncle couldn't get education or my father couldn't get education, but now today I did. And so I want to liberate and fight so that the human rights abuse is not, ongoing and affecting my future generation.
You're shining a light on the darkness that you've been seeing and experiencing. So really appreciate that.
Thanks.
So back to the movement. You founded this movement?
No, actually, I'm one of the founding members, but we, like I mentioned, we're a group of 10 people that are currently based in the United States that co-founded the initiative.
That's amazing. Do you guys accept donations? Is there a website where people can go and donate that you would like to share with us?
Yes, there is our website. I would say that it's not yet set up in the system where people can donate through online, but we are trying to establish a very safe and secure system so that we allow people to donate. However, we want to talk to people. We want people to reach out to us, which we're going to talk about later. There's so many activities that are going on behalf of the organization advocating for marginalized people in Somalia.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this amazing work. It's really, it's so strange that even though we are in 2022 now, these things like this still happen in some places in Africa. It doesn't make any sense. So what is the goal of this movement? What do you guys aim to get out of this movement?
Yeah, honestly, the goal of this movement is what we consider the new transformation. We basically want, after a long struggle of a durable solution, negotiating with the Somali government, is speaking up, even realizing how some of our activists in Somalia right now were killed, were sent to death penalty for no reason, just simply for speaking up. And sometimes the simple things like intermarriage between the powerful tribes and the marginalized population, getting married to one another, and then for no reason, this person and their whole family is being accused of, and a lot of injustice of being done to them. So basically, we just want to demand the law that Somalia needs to be kind of seen and be aware of, in the inclusive democratic world. We know that UN, Amnesty International, and a lot of other international entities are aware of the problem that's happening there. It seems like the Somali government don't want to handle these issues like internally. And so we want to, ask for solidarity. We want to speak up. We want to hold the Somali government accountable. We are still giving our government a chance to mitigate this conflict. And we're still, very hopeful to have more negotiations instead of just, calling them whatever, because at the end of the day, they are our leaders. This is our country, and we want things to be done in a very peaceful, non-violent way. And that's why we have a lot of things going on, such as like the petition I was telling Claude about. This petition, we want as many people as possible to sign. They don't have to be Somali. They can be simply people that just care about, fighting for injustice everywhere, So yeah, our goal is just to keep advocating, keep engaging, keep connecting from the diaspora level and also from the international level, and especially within our community. What I have seen is that, as you can imagine, there's times where abuse and everything, when these things are all you have ever known, it traumatizes people to a point where they're just hopeless and they no longer care about it. Like, they know these things are still happening in their country and their communities. It's like they gave up. And it's like, how can we restore the hope for among these people that have been traumatized for many decades, you know? And these are some of the people that have lived through almost all of this struggle, like older generation. It's like, how can we restore their hope? We don't want them to give up. We understand they are very angry deeply. You know, it's very sad. And for us, that has been like the biggest challenge, kind of finding ways to help our people overcome the trauma that they have lived through all their life. You know, many of them now are in America as refugees, don't even think about ways to go back and invest their country. But in reality, they have the power now to do so, and we have better access to knowledge and everything now, information. You know, there are people's power, especially with their taxpayers in the United States, you know. So we just want to make sure we keep mobilizing, empowering our community, connecting them, educating them about their rights, and collectively overcoming these human rights abuses together.
Thank you guys so much. Mr. Claude, did you have anything you wanted to weigh in on?
Yeah, kind of. Since Muna talked about the petition itself, or maybe I can save it for later. Maybe we can proceed, because I do want to, at the end of the day, encourage the audience to go to the petition, sign the petition, to look up the organizations, support the organization, because the only way we are going to get a positive result, and we're going to be able to, maybe not the only way, but one of the ways to speed up this process of getting a positive result, because me personally, I've read the petition and I support what Muna's doing, and I support the marginalized communities. I think if we can make it more widespread so that more people know about it on the continent and all over the world. So I just want to encourage the people, go read the petition, hoping that the link will be available on this podcast, so that and on the platforms, the Africa is Home platforms, to support the marginalized communities that Muna is representing. Yeah, so we can proceed.
Muna, let's take it back to the background. Why did the Bantus people of Somalia and maybe other ethnic groups that are being marginalized not have rights? What happened?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, historically, the Somali Bantus and other marginalized groups, they usually live in the south and southwest region of Somalia, and this is all the river and AlShabab riverside. They usually live in the river areas, right? Because they are foremost, the two largest rivers that in Somalia. And because I mentioned that they have always been committed to farming, they are in charge of basically 80% of the food consumption, you know, that is basically supported through the farming industry that mostly just the marginalized people are basically doing. Due to this, it prevented also, like I mentioned, engaging with some of the delegations of the political development, engaging with the power sharing activities, and they were intentionally kind of also excluded because, as I mentioned, when the dictators Mohammed Siad Barre was president in Somalia, he actually wanted to keep them as farmers and nothing else. He saw them as just slaves, people that shouldn't have rights. So he just kept them farmers that way. And then with this, they also came up with policies that prevented them from going to school, getting education. It's similar compared to what happened within the African American slavery time in the USA, where they were not allowed to read and things like that. So that's for Somalia. But however, when it comes to, as I mentioned, defending the country, like they were always used because they are, very strong, like African-looking people, right? They were always used in the forefront of the military, work. And they were a big part of, liberating Somalia from the Italian colonization, but yet credit is not given to them, and because the fact that they were not at the table where, power sharing policies and laws were being discussed, they missed a lot of, the inclusion of being represented in the political system in Somalia. And because also they were find out that they don't know anything about it, they now decided to come up with this 4.5 system. Even before this 4.5 system, which is kind of new, they have this clan structure political system. In fact, Somali right now has about 320 members of parliament and 50 senators. And the marginalized Somali Bantus only have 10 seats. And this 10 seat is 7 members of parliament and 1 senator, only 1 minister, and 1 deputy minister. And we are talking about over 300 something MP seats and 50 senators. We have 1 senator. And it's just, you cannot imagine, and leave alone the appointed ministry seats. They have only 2. One is the minister and the other one is the deputy minister. The one that's currently the minister is the one in charge of the information, culture and tourism minister. And then the other one is the deputy minister of the military security of the country. So it makes you wonder, like, that's very shameful for people that are making up about 50% of the Somali population, and they don't even have close to 10 or even 15 seats within the political system, you see. And like I mentioned, because they have been intentionally and structurally excluded from being part of the Somali system based on that clan structure system. And the people that are dominating the system are actually called Darod in Hawiye. They are the ones who are always fighting about who should be the president. We never had a president from the marginalized community. It has always been Darod in Hawiye. People that, it's very heartbreaking, and that should tell you why, because they were farmers, innocent, dedicated to the country. They were excluded from education, so that way they will not have power and voice. And then they were excluded from even the development of the constitution. When you look at the Somali constitution, for example, Article 11 talks about equality. There's an article talking about the people and the citizen, human dignity. There's an article talking about the fundamentals of rights. And then literally, when you look at these articles, and we are like 100% Islamic country, and Islam does not promote something that's injustice, right? Even like when considering that Somalia is Islamic state, what they're doing to these people is very not Islam, it's very injustice. So that is the reason that that caused is the systemic structure that caused these marginalized groups not to be part of or not to have rights in the political system in Somalia.
Well, I kind of like got stuck with something you said about looks. So the government of Somalia was considering you guys to be like maybe second-class citizens in your own country and on your own land because of looks.
Imagine.
It's actually really bad, because some of the things that you're saying, Muna, you're saying them in a way, it's in a soft voice. I think some people might get lost on the fact that you're talking about a dictator wanted a whole marginalized group of people to just be farmers, to basically be slaves. Like, they treat people, they want to enslave the people. That's what it was. And it's that bad. I just wanted to put it in more simple but harsh terms, because that's what I'm understanding. That's what you're describing.
Yeah.
Thank you a lot for clarifying that, for putting that together. Yeah, the way she presents it with a soft voice, and it makes it simple. Thank you so much. And this is because of looks. We're talking about the 21st century here.
Because of looks, you'd be surprised. You'd be so surprised. Honestly, I can talk about, now I'm just talking about the political side, but I can talk about the social issue side, where a, a lot of the young women that are actually maids in some of these dominating tribal houses, especially the political officers or some of the people that, because they are privileged of the tribe due to their, family members being in the political system, etc. Is the girls from the marginalized communities that are actually maids of these houses. You see, they are called blacks, Charer, Bantu, like kinky hair, that they need to work in our houses. They need to breastfeed our babies. And at the same time, some of these girls are being raped, and then there's nothing being done about it. If she goes to court, nobody's, with her, like nobody is fighting for her justice. It's just because she represents a, exclusive group in Somalia because of the government. She's even having to pay the price for it. And leave alone that. Somalia is a fragile country. We all know that. It's one of the poorest countries in Africa, you see. And then now, like, as you know, a lot of humanitarian organizations are going to Somalia to support them due to that. And now currently, in 40 years, we have one of the biggest droughts that just hit the country. So the internally displaced migration is very extremely high. In majority of these people are people from the marginalized communities. And due to this, it's like, okay, when the UN or let's say the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or other humanitarian entities come to Somalia to provide food assistance, to provide humanitarian assistance, guess who are first in line? Is the people from the majority clan, because their uncles, aunties, and brothers are in the political system, or maybe they are MPs or senator or whatever minister. Then all of those resources are being allocated to their own family that sometimes don't even need it. You see, imagine the other group that are living less than $1 a day, not having access to this. And if in case those people don't want it and they want to give it to these people, they will now tell them that if there's a free medication from a medical crop volunteer in America, they would say that you have to pay $1 for this medication when they actually got it for free. Like some of the injustice that even being done in the humanitarian areas, because simply we don't have a lot of representatives that are working locally from the marginalized community. The workforce is also discriminated based on that. So there's a lot of things even behind the scene, a lot of the humanitarian actors that are not aware of the way grants are being allocated, the way communities are being supported at the local level. It's not just the political side, it's like even children. Why would a 5-year-old boy or 10-year-old boy have to wash a minister car in the streets of Somalia, Mogadishu, you see? So it's a lot of issues happening, and we can all relate in some way, but this is why I feel like we at SAJAM, Somali Alliance for Justice and Equality, we do extremely need solidarity from our African brothers and sisters. Before we can even seek help outside, I think, we have to help each other inside. I always tell like my friends and family, I can't wait to see one day if there will be a United States of Africa. Like I want to see a United States of Africa, or maybe even just having one West Africa country, one East Africa country, and then working together collectively. You see, that's the kind of dreams I have. I always tell Claude that I'm a Pan-African at heart, and I really do, seriously, that's how we connected. So this is, I would say, our problems are very serious in Africa. What is happening in Somalia will affect Nigeria. What is happening in Nigeria will affect Burundi. What's happening in Burundi will affect Cameroon. So we need to be together in this.
There's no peace in Africa until all Africa is at peace.
I love that saying that you have. Yeah. I love how you.
There's no peace in Africa until all Africa. And you're already on the right path. Like you already have this amazing movement that you guys are working on. So far, what have you guys organized to help mobilize the diaspora communities to advocate for the people back in Somalia?
Yeah, so for we have different representatives in America, in Kenya, in Somalia. So one of the, as you can see, Somali Alliance, one of our goal mission is to actually build a lot of alliance within the Somali community, build alliance within the African continent, build alliance within the international community. So far what we have done is actually, number one, it starts with our own people. They say charity begins at home. So we have been trying our best to educate. We organized elders, group. We have organized youth group. We have organized women's group. Just simply engaging, connecting, empowering, and especially equipping our communities with the tools they need to fight for their rights, to advocate for their rights. Because really, we might be in America, but some of us still have our close family members, in Somalia. If they're not at the farm now, they are in an internally displaced refugee camp in the capital city, maybe going to bed without food some days. So that is one thing we are doing. The second thing is we are doing a lot of policy work behind the scene, delegations with political officers. We are doing this. The delegation, also is with the political office in Somalia, with the Somali government, with the international community, with the U.S. level. That is one thing we try to do. So community empowerment policy, and also as Claude tell you about the petition that we are doing now.
Yeah.
It's not its kind.
Yes.
It's something that usually is never done in our community. So we are very excited and very hopeful that we will be successful, as we are especially planning to organize a lot of events, just getting signatures for that petition.
You definitely have one signature here already. Anyways,
and a lot of distributions, please.
yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for giving us the insights to this movement. I have a question. When I was doing my research, right, I read about this terrorist organization that is affecting the Bantus region of Somalia, AlShabab. How is the situation like on ground?
Yeah, to be honest, things right now, I don't know if you know, but there's an ongoing conflict in Somalia now. There's a group called Mawisley that is wanting to fight with AlShabab. But then again, as I mentioned, even, with the military ruling in commands and policy, it's not inclusive. But I feel like if our military structure or army structure was very inclusive, then I think we could have liberated, some of the catchment areas where AlShabab actually resettles and have power is the areas where the marginalized group live. Besides being oppressed by the Somali political system, they're even being oppressed by AlShabab. They are the ones that have to pay the price even for that, malicious gangs and things like that. A lot of some of this cost for a lot of marginalized young men to actually be recruited forcefully without their permission. See, so what we need is that we need an inclusive military training to fight AlShabab and to remove AlShabab from our country. But if the marginalized communities are not trained, I know a lot of the dominating tribes have a lot of young people that are being sent to Turkey and other surrounding African countries for military trainings. But the young men and young girls from the marginalized groups don't have access to that opportunity. And if they try to organize their own military force, they don't have the resources. The government will not fund it. So,
wait, is this region completely just abandoned, or is the central government of Somalia sending forces to actually protect this region against AlShabab?
So, as you know, there's a lot of also African Union militaries that are in Somalia.
Okay.
There's some international supported military forces that are taking action about this. However, we need inclusive military trainings, military decision making. Like I mentioned again, the areas where they reside is the area where the marginalized people live. Sometimes they can't even go out because they might kill them. And so, yeah, without inclusivity, nothing will work. And, I just feel like they need to make it more inclusive. They need to get the help of the marginalized groups to fight these people for the best interest of our country. And that is what the marginalized group want, but they are not getting the resources that they need to do that, you see?
Do you think it's by design that the marginalized groups are not getting the support? Because, if a marginalized group is displaced, then that's easy slave labor. If the marginalized groups are supposed to be considered slaves for these other, groups, then for them it's easy if the people don't even have places to go. They're homeless, so they work for anything, or take shelter and work, things like that. Is it by design, or is it they just neglected, simple neglect?
Yeah, it's just a simple neglect, honestly. And that is one thing that, we have been trying to kind of I don't know, even the international entities, I think, should realize that if they can collaborate with the marginalized groups, they will get AlShabab removed from the country. But it's just like I mentioned, it's just simple neglect. I would say that. Yeah.
There's something you really educated me on. I like how you're referring to the groups as marginalized group. When you read about a lot of the groups, especially the Somali Bantus, all you read is the minority group.
Yeah.
But the way you explained it is they don't even account for them. It's almost like the group is erased from being in existence in the country, except for just light statistics. And the way you presented the information about who they are, their background, the size of these marginalized groups, I like the referring to them as marginalized, versus minorities. So what would you say to the narrative that these are minority groups, which justifies, it's terrible to consider them half, but that's I think that's the way to the easy way out to make it seem like, okay, this group is worth half of a consideration versus a majority group or a large clan.
Yeah, so I want to tell you this, Claude, I forgot to mention this at the introduction of the organization background, but we know the reason why we say we are advocating for marginalized groups is that we are actually not just advocating for Somali Bantus. This is just one of the groups that we are advocating for, simply because a lot of our administration team are made up of them. When it comes to marginalized group, even if they don't have to be people with kinky hair or whatever, people that just look pure African. We are also advocating for other forgotten ethnic minorities that are under this marginalized umbrella. This could be like the Parawe group, the Bajuni group, which are actually, they also have some Arab trace background, in fact, but they are like smaller population in Somalia. So we are not just advocating for the Somali Bantus, although like they are the majorities of the marginalized people, but we are advocating for anybody who's oppressed, who is marginalized within the country of Somalia. They could be a marginalized group from Arab background. They could be a soft hair that is just a neglected tribe. So for us, we are advocating for inclusive human rights abuses among the marginalized communities. But simply, some of this could fall under the title minorities. But one thing I can guarantee you for sure is that the Jirirwene Somali Bantu group are not minorities, but the other people that fall under our umbrella of marginalized or could be minorities. Yeah, there's the Bajuni. I don't know if you know about the Bajuni, which they also speak Swahili, but they are in Somalia. There's the Barawe that speak mix of Arab and Swahili. There's the Dulbahante. So there are some neglected tribes. You'd be surprised. And so this organization is standing up for anything that's injustice in Somalia. Yeah.
So I didn't know many clans or ethnic groups in Somalia, but I did know about the Barawes. I did not realize that they were also considered a minority. And my encounter with them was because of the refugee, trail that I've also followed. And so I've gotten to know some of the people from that community. But now it's kind of coming together.
Yes, sorry, I should have introduced that at the beginning. I'm just using the Jirirwene as an example. But we have coalitions and alliance from all these tribes.
Well, thank you so much for the clarification. It's really a sad situation. So, Mr. Claude, did you have any more questions for Muna?
I want to really focus now on the actions. Two things, right? What can we do? What can we do to help? So the reason I say two things is because I already know about the petition, and we all agreed that we're gonna. I've signed it. I'm gonna continue to distribute it, but we want to put a big effort into the world really knowing what's going on. What can we do? How can we support the work that you're doing and support the communities, the marginalized communities that are being affected?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that is actually one of my favorite questions too. Although we need all kinds of help, right? We need help from every level. But first thing I want to say is that I know the organization it says Somali Alliance, but also I want all my fellow Africans, especially those that are coming from marginalized communities or just having some other social and political issues in the country, to see this as their home. We want to build partnership, coalition, and connection with everyone that we have the common interest in supporting common interest. So I would just say that stay connected to us. Number one, we want to just be to be more exposed and our work to be more recognized, especially within our African communities, whether the diaspora and elsewhere. We want to learn from each other as well. We want to learn from each other, and one thing I'm also like envisioning is that maybe the Somali Alliance could be an organization that it could be expanded and replicated and scaled in other African communities in the near future. That is not just a Somali thing, because right now, as you know, the problem we have in Somalia within the Somali marginalized communities are sometimes very hidden. Until now, we don't have a high level of a high rate of or high a big pool of intellectual Somali marginalized professionals. So we want to connect with our African intellects and professionals, lawyers, human rights advocates. We want to work with even our African brothers that are in the human rights organizations like Amnesty or other African, justice or equality organizations, because our problems are all alike and they're all connected within the continent. Yeah, I would just say that feel free. I think our organization actually has, if I don't have the right answer now, I can totally get back to you guys about it. But we also have, if I'm not mistaking or miscommunicating, a membership for external people that might be interested in joining the alliance. Yeah, we can always, if you want us to come and host a town hall or maybe now I'm with the Africa is Home podcast, we would like to be present in other Africa News Channel conferences and share our problems with the community, and so that they can become more aware and educated about what is going on in Somalia, the things that they don't really see in the media, because of course a lot of the people you will see in the media are the people that actually are claiming that they own Somalia. They are the majorities, they are the indigenous, but in reality the people that we all know the people that needs to yeah, but anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that. Yeah, you wouldn't see, it's like in America or elsewhere, you don't see the people that needs to be seen in the TV, and these are the indigenous people, but you see other people that represent them on behalf of them. So it's time for us to write our narrative, and this has been something that has been focused on all over Africa. It's time for us to rewrite our history, rewrite our narrative, and I think this is what this movement is all about. And I think with collective, and unified voices, we can go for. Yeah, so we just want to stay connected, engage, and stay unified. as community.
Well,
yeah. So I want to make sure that the audience understands. You're not just telling the two of us who are here on this podcast to do this. We are saying this to everybody that's listening. Open your platform to Muna and her organization, and really support the work that the SEJM movement is doing, and support these communities, because injustice to one of us is an injustice to everybody. I wanted to make sure that it's clear.
Thank you so much, Mr. Claude, for that clarification. And I have a question for you, Mona. You guys, Somalians have a very strong community in Minnesota, like probably one of the strongest immigrant communities I've seen. So have this organization been introduced to this community here?
Oh yeah, in fact, our last conference that was held in person, it was on September 15th to 17th. It was held in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and the reason why we did that, and it's very interesting. Also, because Minnesota actually, the communities that are more populated there are not communities that are primarily from the marginalized communities. They are the communities that actually have or privileged to have power, a structured power sharing in the Somali system. They are the Cushitic Somalis. They are the dominating majority Somalis. So our interests could sometimes be different, but however, we intentionally held at our conference there this past, was it in September? Yeah. So that way we can show them that, we are still passionate about one Somali. We still, want unity. We still want to work together as brothers and sisters. We went there. We even had a Somali person come out and speak to our organization. If we were angry and we didn't care about all of that, or if we were angry, I don't think we would have paid a Cushitic Somali or dominating majority Somali news channel to come and speak to us. And so that, because we don't want to just educate the marginalized communities, we also want to educate the opposite groups. We want to have the solidarity as well. As I mentioned, this is a nonviolent social nonviolent social movement and peaceful organization. And so we don't want to do things in an angry and disappointed way. We want to do things together as humanity. So that's why we held our conference there, to show our opposite brothers and sisters that we can come together and work as one Somali and support one another. So yeah, but the marginalized Somali groups are more populated in Ohio, Columbus, and Kentucky, and some surrounding cities in New York City. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for reaching out to them, even though they are from the other tribes. Thank you guys for doing that. So, Mr. Claude, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just want to remind people, sign the petition, support the work that SEJM is doing.
So please do reach back out to us when you guys are able to accept donations through like a website portal or Facebook page, so that we can publicize this movement. It's a very noble cause, and we would really like to support this.
Thank you so much, Brenton. We are so grateful. This will not be the last conversation. This will be the conversation.
Oh no. This is the first one. All right.
Definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to ask my fellow Africans one question. How can we fight against neo-colonization, fight against racism, fight for our long-lost African-American brothers, African Europeans, Africans in the Caribbean, if internally back home, we still let tribalism and ethnicism stand in the way? How are we going to be able to unite if we still let small things like how people look stand in the way of our unity? We have so much potential. We have the resources, but the whole world laughs at us. And there's never going to be freedom for any Black man on earth unless Africa itself is free. There's never. African Americans are not free until Africa is free. When you look at Chinese people in America, they are treated differently. When you look at the Jewish people in America, they are treated differently. When you look at the French people in America, they are treated differently because their countries are strong enough to stand for them. Africa is weak and poor. How can we ever get to that point if we still fight so much back home? We own over 70% of the major world resources, but we can just come together. Simple things like looks stand on our way. It's disappointing. We need to get better as Africans. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Muna. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of the conversation, Platini.
Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, do make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a comment, contribute to this conversation. We do read the comments and we address them on the next time we address the same topic. So leave a comment and go follow. Muna, what is your Facebook page? Please just say it out so that everybody can go follow.
Yes, Muna Mudday. My Facebook's Muna Mudday. My Twitter is Muna Mudday. Everywhere you go, it's just Muna Mudday.
Muna Mudday. All right. And what is the Facebook page for the organization? Or there's no official Facebook page yet?
It is actually. It's called the Somali Alliance for Justice and Equality. Just like
that. All right. Thank you guys so much. That's a wrap.
Thank you so much.